All right, well, I have 7:30, so I will call this meeting of the Board Finance and Operations Committee to order. The committee would like to welcome the audience. Viewers may watch board committee meetings live on TV 190 or online at tcaps.net/board. Recorded meetings may be viewed on demand at the same address. The committee has set aside this time for public comment. I don't see anyone. Thank you. We will move on to procedural items. First item is approval of the prior committee meeting minutes. Any changes?
Look good?
Look good to me. Minutes will remain as posted, and we will move on to the board organization meeting finance-related items.
Yep, this is annual. We bring this to you to reaffirm what bank accounts we're using and who the signature personnel are on all the accounts. It's typically four of us, the superintendent, myself, Sandy, and Wes. And we do that for internal controls and extra processes to make sure we're all, as the auditor said, providing the internal controls and the audits. And then the one that I just want to explain is the summer taxes. This looks a little bit confusing, but because we have to notify the townships by January 1 and we don't have our organizational meeting until like the 9th or 10th, we're always a year ahead. So you're actually approving the 2024 summer taxes, so we get it in prior to January 1 of 2024. But that's it. So those will go to the full board for the organizational meeting.
Okay.
I don't have any comments or questions from anyone else. So we will move both of those items to the full board for approval under approval motion. So, next up on the agenda is informational items, starting with capital project update.
Yeah.
Helps if I turn it on.
So do that every time.
Montessori. So, what's going on at Montessori right now? Our architects and engineers are chasing the contractors around doing punch lists on things. We're starting to finish things out. Rooms are full of furniture waiting to be set up and arranged. So I'm not sharing a whole lot of pictures today. I'd like them to finish some spaces off and then show some pictures of some actually finished work in the next board meeting. But
Looks like you're getting good runoff information from the snow early.
a little bit, yeah. That was obviously last week, but yeah, that's where we're at right now. Things are starting to wrap up. The end of the month, we should be pretty darn close to.
So probably a super good idea. We didn't move our opening to,
Yeah.
which would have been just recently.
Yeah.
Last week, right? So.
So just a couple of shots. This is the learning stair inside the media center. They started framing that out last week, and the greenhouse is just about wrapped up
Oh, that's great.
there. But again, inside the building, there's a lot of touch-ups, a lot of little things going on, final finishes being put on. And like I said, the rooms are full of furniture just sitting, waiting to be distributed around the spaces, so.
So it's mainly just little things.
Little
just
things right
little,
now.
Little
Yeah.
punch list things.
Yep.
We're nitpicking.
Yeah.
We will be starting a lot of systems up. You know, the boilers are running, the heat's on in the building, all the lighting systems got to be tested out. So we've got a chance to go through and do a lot of that commissioning work. So
And because we have time, we've slowed down just a little bit to make sure that we can pay attention to every detail.
Where are we with the additional contingency? Did we have to use all of that?
we haven't touched it yet, but trying very hard not to get to it. So. And then out at West Senior High, obviously the athletic complex is going on. Couldn't get any drone shots. He went out and took them, but for some reason his technology wasn't working. And
Tech guy.
the tech guy, and he couldn't translate them or transfer them over. So this is the field house. You can see the winter conditions, the scaffolding with the plastic over it is heated space, so they can continue working on the masonry in the cold weather. And just some of the work going on down on the field, the dugouts and press boxes the masonry work's done. They're being framed and getting ready for roofs. And the site lighting's gone in. There's a lot of pathways and walkways around the site that are lighted now. And then over at Trav Heights, footings and foundations are in, they backfilled, and the masonry work has started there. Again, that's scaffolding with the plastics, all heated space, so they can do the cold weather masonry work.
Yeah, these guys are psyched about the weather. The
Oh,
guys that
those
are
guys,
doing
yeah,
that, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, they're
Yeah, the
they're
weather's
real
been good for
happy
them.
that it's not snowy.
Anyway,
Okay.
that's that.
I wonder how long it took them to dig that out after the blizzard.
Right.
Yeah,
Most of it melted
Well,
off.
like if we'd have waited 3 days.
Yeah.
so true.
All right.
True.
Moving on to pre-bond planning services.
Yeah, so I wanna pass these around, just so you can take a look at, if I can grab them, the bids that we did receive. If you guys want them, but there's plenty. It's a little bit bigger than yours, Paul, so it's not so hard to read. So, on the left, you can see, the teams that actually submitted proposal. We have a mix of teams that collaborated between a CM and an architect, and then those that submitted proposals on their own, which would mean we would have to select, the other partner moving forward on our own. And they provided, total fees, which you can see there's a pretty big range there. So at this point, our plan, is to continue our analysis the rest of this week and do some phone interviews, asking some questions. And then we will bring the proposal, our recommendation, with our rationale to the board meeting for recommendation for approval so that we can get started. The plan would be to work with an architect and CM from February to about May on how the communication will look, maybe doing some focus groups, getting some district surveys as it relates to getting feedback from the community. And then all summer long, they'll do the facility studies, so they'll be in our buildings all summer long. And then in the fall, we can decide how we'd like to move forward with devising needs, wants, and programmatic improvements. And we'll use the information that we're getting from the focus groups to tie into that. And then we can begin to devise with cost estimates what the bond could look like. I think I shared that we could go up to maybe 160 million if we chose to without raising the millage rate. So it's a conversation about what we'd like to have done in the next 8 to 10 years and what we think taxpayers would approve. And so this will give us all the information we need to develop what that campaign, informational campaign will look like and what projects we'll highlight.
We get to keep these?
Yep. I'm gonna email this and any optional videos that we got to the board today.
Can I ask you kind of a dumb question?
Absolutely.
So this is obviously the companies that you're interviewing, and because it's regarding the bond, are these only construction companies?
Nope, it's a mix.
Okay, because I
So-
see some other like consultant type, okay, so it
Yeah.
is a mix. So the construction companies are putting together like, if we wanted to, whatever, in construction, is that correct?
It's usually a construction manager, and their big part of it is timing and cost estimating, and they
Okay.
partner with an architect who would do renderings, and then the CM would do estimating. Architects.
Got it.
So some of them you see here, they mix together, they partner.
Yeah.
Some are on their own, so
Yeah.
you'll see some are just a CM, some are just an,
Okay.
So, and then some have created a team that they're doing that with.
And how do you really, I mean, I know you've obviously got your check sheet here, which you'll go through, but ultimately, how do you make that decision?
Well, honestly, we'll start with looking at the total fee proposals. There'll be some right off the bat you can tell that are quite substantially higher than the others that we'll probably start with lowest bid and do our interview process to see if they're including everything we're looking for. Some of them have included discounts in the future if we do award projects after this, based on some of the renderings they've done, simply for the fact that if they're already doing some base renderings, they know going forward into a project, some of that work is done. So they're being very specific about offering a discount for that project moving forward. So we'll take a look at that. We'll look at what they have as far as communications and marketing team to make sure they can do what we're looking for as far as focus groups. maybe district surveys. We really want this team to be in front of the community. It's a little bit better to have an outside party come in and let people talk openly and honest to them instead of administration or the board being in front of people and possibly people may not say what they'd really like to say, so we want them to be able to come forward and talk. So we'd like to set those up with them, see what team they're recommending, if they have the skill set to do that, and how they will compile that information for the board to review.
Okay. And was this process done last time? Do we always do it this way, kind of lay it out and, or a little bit different?
We did this for Eastern, specifically for Eastern, back in 2016. So we haven't done a full-fledged
For a
process
bond,
like
for
this.
the bond,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
So you said we can ask for up to 160 million without raising?
correct. It's just a matter of, do we think, there's a little bit of a question on, do voters understand that it's not a millage increase, even though they see a bigger number? Ultimately, voters are approving the amount they're authorizing, not the millage rate. We've always promised we won't increase the millage rate, but a future board or administration could do that without voter approval. We have had the trust of the community by not doing that in 25, 30 years.
Yep.
So, I would maintain that we still keep that promise, that we don't increase the millage rate, but they're approving the dollar amount. If we really wanted to, we could sell it all at once at 10, 11, 12 mills. I don't recommend that because this has been part of our campaign and part of the trust that we've built with the community. But I think there's a sweet spot in there, maybe not that high, that would maybe make the community feel a little bit more comfortable. We've typically been at 107, 110. We know we have to be higher to include central grade. It's just how high do we go without risking a no vote?
What was the amount of the last bond?
107. And it didn't quite make it 10 years. As you know, costs are rising, so. But the information we'll get from the study will be very valuable. We'll know how much projects cost approximately. We can put escalators on those. If we think that we'll do this project in 4 years, we can estimate some kind of increase so that it relates to what it would cost at that point. Assuming there's an increase, there could always be a decrease, but you want to assume worst case scenario.
In our last bond, though, 107, didn't we have 2 failed bonds before that were
Correct.
voted no?
And those were both millage increases, and we got a very clear no on both.
Okay, okay.
So that's what she's talking about, keeping the 3.1 mills. That's a very low mill rate statewide.
Very
There
low.
are many districts that are in the high single digits, if not low.
Double
So
digits.
3.1 is a very low rate across the state.
There's also a conversation to be had with the board about how we put that on the ballot. So just at a very high level, it has to be recognized that there could be people focused on central grade. We need 107, 110 just to maintain our assets for the next 10 years. We have 200 million in assets now, I think, closer to 200 million.
Getting closer to 300.
300?
Yeah.
So we have $300 million in assets, and after this bond sale, we'll only have 10 million left to sell in 2025. That won't get very far on just maintaining our assets. So we absolutely need another bond authorization just to maintain our assets. And then in addition, if we'd like to tackle central grade, we know that's more than a typical elementary reconstruct. So there's got to be a conversation around what that looks like and what we think taxpayers are comfortable with.
But hoping to do no millage increase?
Yes.
With all of it, even including
Yes.
central grade? Okay.
Well, we can do 160. So if you look at our typical 107, that probably would last us 7, 8 years. And then if you think about just a square foot cost to central grade, not deciding if we're renovating or tearing down, but if you just look at a square foot cost on what we think we need, you're talking 30 to 50 million. So that would quickly get you to the 160.
Compared to what did Montessori, right? Just about
It's
cost?
23.
23, so it gives the idea of the difference.
And Eastern was
Eastern
14
was-
or 17?
16?
16.
Neither, 16, okay. In the middle, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we can
I mean, now
do-
it's
And
escalated.
we have more square foot and we did
Yeah.
a bigger gym, but also costs have
Prices are
escalated.
increasing,
Right.
yeah.
So home values are increasing it. So even though 3.1 is staying, that's why we can go higher.
Right.
Right, it helps the cause, for sure.
And our financials and advisors will project out, knowing that the housing market's gotta come down at some point, so
Yeah,
they're
you've got to be
very,
careful with that,
Yeah.
because, you know, that's where you get into a case where you may have to, you know, if values really went down,
Right.
you're not paying it off as quick, you may not be able to make like a last bond sale when you want to, you have to stretch that out a little bit to maintain the 3.1 rate, so it just pushes your projects out.
which
so.
happened to us in 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That happened in 2010, and we were literally doing critical capital needs only, which is why we feel like we're so far behind.
So we'll have more at the full
Yep.
board meeting next
So
week.
I will, have Julie email this and all the links to any videos. The videos were optional, just so that you can get a sense for, what the quality of, some of the people providing bids have. And then Paul and I will do our analysis, bring a recommendation with our rationale to the full board meeting. And we'd like to get moving right away.
Is that why videos in red is because it was optional for
Yes.
each company?
Yep.
Okay, got it.
We had quite a few participate, which was nice.
Okay.
So that's where we're at with that.
Any other questions on that item? If not, it looks like the next item is the transportation routing review.
All right, so I think that, you've been updated, that, we're severely short in transportation. We've talked a little bit in the past about possibly having to look at our policy and make some changes. We don't have a recommendation today, but we'd like to bring one to the board on Monday, the 9th. We have to start reducing services. We simply do not have enough drivers and we're not getting any more. We're 15 bus drivers short, AM and PM, and we've been, making it work mostly on the backs of managers, mechanics, and facility staff. And now that work's not getting done and getting caught up with us. We have our, annual state inspections coming up on school buses. We can't have mechanics driving routes AM and PM during that process. So, we were hoping to make a recommendation of, so by law, you don't have to provide transportation, but if you decide to, you don't have to provide transportation if a student lives a mile and a half or closer to the school they attend. We do provide that transportation, so we were hoping that portion would eliminate some routes. Unfortunately, after our analysis and asking drivers to do actual count days, most of those students that are in the system as riding are not. So it didn't save any routes by trying to do that. So what we're looking at now is possibly reducing services at high school only, and possibly splitting week on, week off, or 2 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, every other Friday. We'd be able to save 2 to 4 routes, which still isn't enough, but we're trying our best to have the least impact as possible, knowing we may have to go deeper in the future.
What's the timeline for those adjustments?
If we make a recommendation on the 9th, we'd like 2 weeks to communicate.
So we're talking this semester.
This semester through June, the end of the year.
Are we just not getting applicants, or are we getting applicants and they're just not accepting roles?
We're getting some applicants, but we're also losing staff.
And the
Memo said we had some resign before the holidays.
Yep, we had
Yes.
a couple, you know, we had one that went to Kingsley, I know, you know, that's been a driver for us, but it was closer to home, I mean, everybody's looking for them, and so it's premium from that standpoint, so it's, just tell you, it was a little bit of a sleepless night for me last night, just, you know, this issue kills, you know, just your mind of not worrying about a student not making it to school.
Right.
But, you know, I've contemplated a lot, and we've talked quite a bit of, you know, financially, there's just a wall that you hit that, you know, we can't, you know, we can't do a lot more. I mean, we're at a balanced budget pretty much right now. So, you know, if you were to increase more wages, which, will that attract more? Are there more people to CDL out there? I don't know. I don't think so. You know, and yet, and so at that point, you know, you're gonna dip into, at this point, fund equity, because you can't just raise it for new people and not provide it to all of our other drivers now. We are just pretty much tapped out at where we can financially go. And I don't, unless there's some kind of major influx of dollars from the state in the next budget year to try and do something in that way, I don't see that. And even with that, I just don't know if it solves it. I really feel in my heart that our housing crunch has a whole lot to do with, where does somebody that's doing a split shift and is at that, a little over $20 an hour? I mean, where are we at with drivers now?
Beginning's 22, top is 25, right?
21.
Okay.
And then 22.75, 23.75 if you're an alternate.
Okay.
So 23.75.
Full benefits, insurance.
And yet, anybody else in other industries that are in that element are exactly in the same situation. A lot of, nobody's going to drive from Kalkaska to do a split shift every day. So you only have the pool of people that you have that live with, your boundaries are close to, with being 270 square miles or as a school district. I don't see where we get the additional people and what we can do to attract more, even if the financial ability was there.
How many families does this impact at the high school?
At the high school,
Because that's what we're talking about cutting.
yeah. Do you know how many riders you have per high school?
I could look that number up. I could look that number up.
Okay.
What about, it's almost a survey or a plea to our TCAPS families that say something to the effect of, listen, we are looking at cutting our busing system. This is inevitable. This is happening. If you are able, would you drive your child, and see what kind of response we could get? I mean, I know a bunch of friends, kids that take the bus that are perfectly capable of driving and have the ability to, and the resources to, and the car to. I'm just worried about those that don't, and so would parents come forward and volunteer and say, all right, I'll take my kid, or kids, whatever. And would that make an impact? Is that something that we've thought of, or?
We did a survey before that alluded to adding student packing buses, making them longer. So we did get a bunch of people that opted to drive. I don't think there was a very clear plea
Yeah,
to
I
not
mean-
use transportation.
Yeah.
Most of the time when you increase ride time and increase the number of students on the bus, it happens naturally, and that did happen a little bit. But not enough to save at least 4 drivers a day to at least make it, that's not even really manageable, but we're trying our best not to do too much damage.
I mean, to give you an idea, how many routes did we have just a couple years ago versus now?
We had 86 in the afternoon, maybe 7-8 years ago.
Yes, long time ago.
Yeah.
Yes. Just last year in June, we had 51 routes in the morning and 53 at night. And currently, we're running 46 in the morning and 51 at night. So we cut 5 routes just over the summer, just because we lost 5 drivers over the summer. So just to stay the exact same as where we were, we cut the routes. And cutting the routes is putting more kids on,
Longer times.
longer ride times.
Yeah, school of
Uh,
choice.
It's,
Open enrollment. So open enrollment is kids who come from Suttons Bay to here, right?
Nope, that's schools of choice. Open enrollment is our schools going to a different boundary. And we, we do have a policy that spells how we provide transportation. I think when we make a recommendation, I'd like to ask that we do, kind of like we did with the property, offers, that we waive our policy until the end of the year, just because simply we're not gonna be able to follow it with the way that it's written right now. But the biggest challenge is, we have been finding, as we've been doing the high school routes, as we've been having to eliminate here and there simply because they're vacant and we don't have people coming in, we've eliminated 2 at Central, 2 at West. Yesterday and today, we eliminated 3 total. And miraculously, kids are finding a way home. We do send a bus back, but we're maybe getting 2 or 3 kids. So it's we're getting some information that's telling us they're finding a ride home, so it's not as dire as what we think. It is the morning that I'm more concerned about. The problem is, we just don't have enough drivers both.
So, school of choice, do they drive to a certain point and then catch a bus?
Yeah, same with
that-
open enrollment. They're both able to ride as long as they get to a stop in the boundary of the school they're attending. So if I live in Long Lake and I wanna go to Central Grade, I can, I just have to get to a Central Grade stop. We're not gonna come get you outside of Central Grade.
Do we provide any busing for the other school districts?
We have to for, parochials and, private schools.
By law.
If we provide for ours, we have to provide for theirs. And they would follow this as well. So if we didn't do West Senior High 2 days a week, then the private and parochials would be notified that their routes don't run these days.
My biggest concern is just the short timeline that we're looking at and not knowing how many families this is going to impact. And knowing that we already have so many requests for special route changes for open enrollment. Wow.
Understand,
Yeah.
you know, we're just, after the holidays, I mean, this is just the pinch we're in, believe me. It gives no great pride in any of us to sit here and have this conversation.
I'm sure.
You know?
Well, and I worry too about the optics of what we want to do at the bus barn.
Yeah, I mean, it, you know, it, again, this is just still a temporary thing. We just don't see it turning around, you know, until we get a summer cycle here, maybe, you know, and look at some of the apartments and stuff that are being built. You know, hopefully maybe this summer opens up some people.
The challenge with all of the places that are hiring and the responsibility of a school bus driver, that's our challenge. These buses are packed, we have discipline issues, and it is a huge responsibility. And oh, by the way, you can't see anything in the morning. If they can get another job at Beta for the same amount or higher, most will choose Beta because they're not dealing with behavior issues, packed buses, and being one person on a bus responsible for 55 students. It's a big responsibility.
Yeah.
Do we offer, like CDL assistance or training?
All of it.
All of
like a
it.
All of it.
Yes.
I went through
Sign-on
it, I mean, I can tell you, I
bonus.
mean, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
We paid training, you know, I mean, the whole time that they're learning, they're getting paid, I mean, all those elements are there, our folks do a wonderful job with it.
Yeah.
You know, we now have a testing ability right at the Career Tech Center, for our drivers, so they used to have to go up to Petoskey, able to do it right here now with the consortium. We have everything in line, everything for that.
Do we have anyone that's impacted by the recent retiree rule?
Yes.
Yes,
Two,
That would
Two.
like to come back?
two,
we have two.
So they have to wait 6 months?
9
9.
months.
They would have been driving in September too,
Yeah.
if that didn't change.
All right, so then this would, I think you just said this is temporary, so we're
Well,
gonna go,
Temporary till the end of the year, and then we can evaluate, you know, if we can find a way to hire some more in the summer, or look at, you know, other alternatives from that standpoint, but, I mean, hopefully not our new norm, but we're not gonna call kind of the ball game at this point forever, but it would be till the end of the year at this point. We don't see it drastically changing between now and
No, but if
June.
it does, we can always change it. Like, if we get a slew of drivers in May, we can change it back.
right,
But I would like families to have some kind of knowledge going forward of what to expect.
This is
The
likely.
calling them the night before to say your route's not running at all is very challenging.
seems like, pre-2000, we had eliminated busing to the high schools as
yeah.
well. So there's precedent for this.
Other districts in the same, that you're aware of, in the same kind of boat?
Not quite, you know, I think that, which is another reason why I sit and look at a little bit of our job, you know, our housing situation, our job market here, I think is a little unique. I think everybody's struggling, but managing to get by, but there are people canceling routes, you know, for a here, there, a day here, a day there, all over the place.
Yeah, well, and
They
there
also
are
have
other
Yeah.
rural districts
lot
that don't
smaller
even
than
have
we are.
buses.
Oh,
Right, I will tell you that the next one that's easiest for me, that's in our, closest to our size is Alpena, you know, in northern Michigan, and they're 604 square miles, and on their Facebook page, they're canceling a route or 2 routes every day. They literally will put on social media and Bright Arrow every morning, so-and-so's bus is not running, find a way to school. That's the way that they're.
How many routes total do they have?
I wanna say about 57.
Okay, so fairly
You know,
close.
very, very similar in that size, and they don't have as packed of buses, they just have twice the square miles.
Yeah.
You know, from that standpoint, but that's just the one that I'm most familiar with, because I just have their feed, and I know the drivers, and so I see, so-and-so's bus isn't running today, find a way, you know, every day darn near, there's 1 or 2, and it's different, and so parents have to scramble, or the kids just didn't. So when we put our survey out a year ago, we asked, is that a scenario you would like, or would you rather us do something where we can, you know, do service half of a week
Consistency.
and the other, and they chose, you know, and I don't remember the data, but it was definitely.
Consistency, they were
Yeah,
looking
it was
for
definitely stronger towards, the survey was of consistency versus day here, day there of just getting called in the morning of no route.
So if we cancel transportation to the high school, this solves the issue? We're not gonna come
No.
back in February and say, we need to cancel some,
No. No, and,
This is
and I'm not
only 4 routes.
I'm not recommending canceling high school at this point. I'm recommending week on, week off, Central High 1 week, West the other, or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, every other Friday. So we have something to the high schools on a weekly basis. We could come back in February, March and say we can't do any of it. If it keeps getting bad, worse.
will this also impact the kids who, don't we have some who ride to the middle school and then catch another bus to the high school?
Only high school students and private and parochial. It won't impact middle school or elementary.
I mean, you're only actually talking, we're talking 4 routes, right? Is that what we
Only,
said?
I think it's only 4 routes we can save, and
Yes.
we're hoping, I mean, like you said, if parents start driving after this happens and we can eliminate routes, we'll do that, to try to save more drivers.
And we can work on crafting a message to our high school parents, to let them know, you know, and we can keep an eye on it, you know, from that standpoint. But, you know, a little bit of the challenge too, remember, is just the square miles. I mean, you know, if a kid's here and then a kid in Interlochen, you still have to drive to, you know, that distance to pick the 1 kid up versus 4. While maybe the bus isn't as full, they still only have so much time to start the route and get the kids to school when school starts, that you can't, you know, you can't have a 2.5-hour route that goes and picks kids up, and maybe your bus is only half full, but, you know, that there's just limitations because of that as well.
I gotta say, this really makes me upset, and I know it's nobody's fault, but my suggestion would be find a way to get like a $5,000 bonus, something incentive to get more drivers, even if you increase the salary for short time and say, you know, until we can recruit more drivers, we're offering this bonus to get people through training. I mean, I agree with kind of what Flanoy said. I mean, it does not look good, us putting in a bus washing station and paving when we can't even get our kids to school. You know,
I really don't think money's the answer. We've tried all that. And like John said, you're talking, if you wanna do $5,000 bonus for new people, you better do it for everybody, cause they'll quit.
yeah, no, and I would say that. I mean, I would say that.
But are we ready to spend fund equity to do that already? We are balanced at budget right now.
And we don't know if it'll work, so between now and how long do we wait to see if we hire people, and how long does it take to train them?
At least 5 weeks with the new system.
There's extra rules and restrictions now for
Yeah, the
training.
state has now added even more things that a driver has to do.
And we also do offer them at an interview, because of the split shift, we offer them work at facilities. So we will give them an 8-hour day. We offer them an 8-hour day at the interview,
That's good to know.
just to, we're trying. Some people don't want that, some people want the split shift, but those that want to support a family, need 8 hours a day, we offer it at the interview.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying you guys haven't tried. I just,
I understand.
there's gotta be more. I mean,
It's,
that's
Bad
like
as
a
reduced
punch
all
in
their-
the gut, not being
Yeah.
able to get I mean, I don't care if you're elementary, I don't care if you're high school. I mean, not being able to get a student to school is like, it just doesn't seem like, that's just kind of crazy to me. So,
I don't disagree.
and
Like you
again,
said-
there are people that are able-bodied to drive their kids. I just don't think we've given a straight-up plea. I mean, sometimes our surveys are so convoluted, yeah, me as an educated adult can't even understand them. I mean, have we sent it out to our families expressing this dire situation we're in? I mean, I know it's on our Facebook page, I know it's on our website, hiring, like, and I know it's been out in the front of communications, but I mean, have we literally said, like, we are going to cancel routes and put it out to the parents to, I mean, understand what does that look like?
I mean, we actually canceled at one point
Yeah.
and got
That
one
was-
person out of it.
That was COVID-ish, too many people sick. I mean, that wasn't like, I mean, that was more, I felt like a short-term sickness with COVID craziness, where there were a lot of things, I mean, we were canceling school for, I mean, so, I don't think we were saying we literally don't have enough staff, period, end of story. Not because of sickness, not because of surgeries, not because of retirements, but just we don't have enough. I don't know. Just my own opinion.
So back to Christine, what you said about not totally canceling it, but on a rotating basis. So are you thinking Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, every other Friday is the best scenario?
I
or
think it
1
is,
week
because
on?
then if you have a student that has difficulty, they're still there every week. And we still will have students that can work with counselors to get beta passes. We'll still operate that way. Principals and counselors have done a great job of providing extra support if a student can't get to school. We will still help students in that manner.
I'd still like to know, I know you said 4 routes, so, just the number of students that families this is gonna impact.
I mean, if you're talking 4 routes, you're talking probably 2 at each high school, 55 on a bus, so 100 at Central and 100 at West.
I just think about our kids, who
Absolutely,
already struggle,
absolutely.
and this is gonna impact probably the ones who struggle the most. And I know you guys have tried everything. But I worry too about the public who hasn't paid so much attention as we have to this, what their reaction will be. But maybe a silver lining will be that it'll really push the point.
Well, we certainly can announce this as a short term while we're doing the plea, and see if there's a change. We don't have to say it's until June. We could say for the rest of January, we have to do this schedule, and do the survey and the plea along with, and see if it makes a difference. Obviously, he'll work with the bus drivers, and if their counts are going down, they can do some rerouting and react to that. We're just in a situation that there is really important work not getting done because everybody is driving. And we've done it this long to ensure kids are getting to school. We can't keep doing it. For one, we're gonna start losing personnel because,
They're doing 2 jobs.
yeah, 2 full-time jobs.
Okay, so your plan is to bring something to Monday night?
Yes.
No, a week from Monday.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, moving on to just our normal finance update.
Yeah, unfortunately, don't have anything yet. Do you wanna share some of what, you've heard as far as?
Yeah, little bits. The governor, in her inauguration speech, mentioned schools specifically, the school funding that, plans on, continuing or, hopefully it even sounded rhetoric of extending record high, funding for schools. So we're, hopeful that, there is still a large surplus. The school aid fund, for December, at this point, looked very strong still from the November consensus. So month to month, we're still seeing the school aid fund is outperforming what the estimates were for revenues. So all things point to another really good budget. Now, what that looks like exactly, we'll see. We're hearing right now that it's a priority of the governor for possibly adding 3-year-old a universal preschool. So that would be something that, would be interesting in where that heads. There have been some pilots across the state over the last year of that. So that's something we'll be keeping our eye on. And then we've had a lot of conversation already with Representative Betsy Kofia of the transportation categorical. It actually has been identified downstate as well. Of there's a group that formerly was called the Tri-County Alliance, now it's the K-12 Alliance of Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, St. Clair, and Genesee counties. They have their own lobbyist, and they have signed on to also support a transportation categorical. So we have that we're encouraging Betsy in her first 10 bills that she has an opportunity to submit that, as well as one specifically of an addition for rural school districts. And the language would allow us to qualify under that as well, that would identify even further inequities because of a lot of miles that are driven in the north compared to southern Michigan. So we're hopeful on those. We're going to continue to work with Representative Kofia and others in the legislature to see if we can make headway on that. But, this is another piece of that puzzle financially. Just, remember from our audit of, I'm not gonna get this exact, but, we were like, 500th in funding of 800 school districts, and it's just.
610.
610, thank you. A huge inequity that way, and these are some of those things. Transportation is a big one. That's a big one that if we did have more funds on, what we can possibly try and do. And so, it's one that I'm expressing very much so, that's an inequity that we don't have, that other districts downstate have more finances to be able to do with those things. So that's pretty much what's out of Lansing right now. The state of the state has been scheduled for the end of January, face-to-face, for the first time in 3 years. And then shortly in early February, the governor will be proposing her budget. So we'll have some beginning looks at what next year will start to look like in that early February timeframe.
All right. Any other items for the committee? If there are not, we will adjourn. Our next meeting is February 1st at 7:30. Thank you.